the Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, rarely seen in ages. Now I see and hear, may I know the Tathagata, liberate beings. Let us all now give rise to the supreme bodhicitta. Next, we will continue our discussion on the legendary wisdom sword that destroys demonic illusions. This treatise was written by Mipham Rinpoche. Mipham Rinpoche has 5 wisdom swords. Among them, the wisdom sword that destroys demonic illusions. The other lessons are very extraordinary. But I have chosen this particular treatise, and I'm translating it here with everyone. If you have some time, you can, if you wish, take a look at the teachings of His Holiness that we have translated before from the Ocean of Pith Instructions. The truly legendary sword of wisdom, basically every verse. His Holiness gave a brief introduction. It was interpreted looking back. Then His Holiness, his eyesight's not good. But the fundamental significance and explain the key meanings. I was also translating as I listened back then to everything, which was actually quite challenging. But in retrospect, the translation turned out quite well overall. This study, this treatise, you can see teachings His Holiness gave before on this subject. Sometimes His Holiness taught it more extensively. Sometimes he taught it more briefly. In any case, at that time, the Venerable One, the way he used to carefully and patiently explain things was very, very meaningful. So let's start today to carefully and thoughtfully discuss both greed and anger, as well as jealousy, arrogance, and stinginess. These are the 5 different types of flower arrows that we specifically talked about just a moment ago. Every day, Mara, the demon king, shoots these arrows at every sentient being, especially among us humans, those who practice well, encountering conditions. Behind the scenes, Mara is interfering. Many of you may have sensed this as well. So during the process of studying this Dharma, we might also face obstacles or demonic hindrances. But this is also normal, because some of the things we are doing, perhaps Mara is actually quite concerned about them. Of course, when it comes to Mara, it should be understood in 2 ways. Deluded, discriminating thoughts, or the external demons that manifest based on our discriminating thoughts. Both of these possibilities exist. So listening, contemplating, practicing, encounter barriers. No need to worry, nor should you become really overly attached to them. If you persist in your studies, you will overcome these difficulties. Earlier, we also talked about afflictions, as you may recall, especially greed, which actually arises due to causes and conditions. In conventional terms, in fact, it is when the conditions are right, arises unexpected. If you examine its nature, you'll find it doesn't exist. We've analyzed this earlier. Starting today, the section discusses how afflictions are unattainable. It analyzes this from both the ultimate and conventional perspectives. We don't have time, but if we did, if we were to categorize this small treatise and explain it thoroughly, it should be quite interesting. The object of desire, and impermanent, like a flash of lightning, who can truly desire whom? We analyzed earlier. The objects were attached to people or things. When we talk about the desire, opposite sex desire, everyone understands this, even from a narrow perspective. At the time, His Holiness said here, desire for opposite sex is the main issue. Desire scope is broad. If you crave any external object, that can also be called desire. We have already analyzed this earlier. Desire object. If a person or sentient beings of the opposite sex, for example, and then there is the one who desire. Seven, the mind can be the one who desires. I can desire, this desirer, whether it is a person who desires, mind of one who craves. These two rely on factors, just as we discussed earlier, whether it's the object of desire, minute particles, or inattention. They all arise from causes. Because if they come from causes, they end instantly. Conditioned phenomena, dreams, illusions. Therefore, they cannot endure for long. Any conditioned phenomenon, as long as it arises, cannot remain into the next moment, remains to second moment, won't perish, nor would it perish in the fourth. Endless conditioned phenomena straight. As soon as they arise, they simultaneously cease. So any object of desire or the one who desires is momentary, perishing in an instant. They are impermanent in nature, just like lightning. When we look at it, it flashes and is gone in an instant. Lightning cannot last into the next moment either. Hear thunder if it lasts longer. But in fact, this is an illusion of a firebrand. In fact, the actual flash of lightning itself vanishes. So if that's the case, object desired, desirer, if no one exists, who will be greedy? Desirer doesn't exist. The objects of desire, your attachment to the opposite sex, if these don't exist, why attach? Indeed, you can never truly obtain them. As we have previously studied in the Vimalakirti Sutra, this body is like a cloud, vanishing instantly. This body is just like lightning, unable to remain even for a moment. Everyone should still remember this, surely, right? And there are others. For example, the Lalitavistara Sutra also teaches each thought cannot remain like lightning in the sky, and so on. Many Buddhist sutras teach our attachment and external objects of desire. Actually, no phenomenon can possibly exist for a second moment. The person we think we are attached to, for example, someone I was attached to in my 20s, 10 years later, if I am still attached to them, this is actually a false mental fabrication. The object is not truly existent. Just as other treatises have explained, there is a similar continuum mistakenly taken to be the original, like considering yesterday's river to be matches today's river. In reality, that continuum doesn't exist at all. Therefore, we should realize that true craving and deep emotional attachment is actually being's one, particularly unreasonable false mental fabrication as the cause, which then gives rise to all kinds of suffering and causes us to wander in samsara. This is the dharma of mind, the dharma of observing the mind. Many people say, give me a direct pointing teaching, teach me a pith instruction. Actually, when speaking of Dzogchen, there will also be this way of reasoning. Doesn't Dzogchen practice have two types? One type is like His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, as mentioned in the commentary on direct pointing to the nature of mind. He uses various Madhyamaka reasoning methods, which is one method of practice that is commonly used. Another way is to realize the mind's nature through meditation. So some of us might not know just yet. Sometimes as Buddhists, many people seek the Dharma outside the mind, and this is quite common. Most people now, particularly like Rinpoche, is giving empowerments in New Zealand. I have to go. Rinpoche is giving empowerments in Canada, in Nepal, in Bhutan. Nowadays, people are obsessed with things at leisure. This is good. It shows faith. It shows about the Dharma. One might cross many mountains and rivers, traveling to places to seek the Dharma. This is a good thing. We are not saying that this is bad. In reality, when you receive the Dharma, you need a foundation in Buddha Dharma. This foundation comes from preliminaries. Now, Buddhist principles. At the same time, regarding what is taught in Buddhism, you must examine these fundamental Dharma teachings. You need to understand them yourself. Otherwise, empowerments, instructions received, but the basic legal principles, if you have no understanding at all, your mind stream remain before, and it might not have any real power. So sometimes when we really truly reflect on ourselves, Buddha's teachings are important. The teachings spoken by these great masters later, these instructions are very important. If you don't investigate this, just an external appearance. Some Kadampa masters also said many practitioners nowadays regard the Buddha's words as significantly less valuable, even less important than even those of a fortune teller. When Buddha taught in context, they seem not to care if there's someone doing fortune telling or divination. Then they think that's something special, and everyone pays a lot of attention to it. Someone named Long Shulia. Recently, or rather some time ago, he also made some prophecies. It is said that he had 13 dreams within dreams, and in the end, all of them became prophecies. Including the pandemic. At that time, there were many things like the devastating major earthquake in Japan and so on. This person in his prophecies said that on July 5th of this year, roughly 1/3 of Japan would experience earthquakes and tsunamis. He even said that he himself had fled to India. But many people said that this time his prophecy was inaccurate because there wasn't any major earthquake or anything like that. People not pay attention to the Buddha's words, to the Buddha's correct teachings, including our own current way of analyzing what we want and are greedy for. These things, it seems, are not really valued much. Some of us Buddhists are often like this. For example, when we give regular teachings to everyone, it seems that people don't really pay much attention to them either. Then suddenly one day, empowerment ceremony. Everyone blindly rushes to participate, crowding and pushing in from everywhere. But in reality, if you truly observe the empowerment you receive, you have neither faith nor the necessary foundation beforehand. If you rely solely on ritual, how much power can you actually gain from it? True Buddhist teachings among us, faults of deluded thoughts can actually be corrected. They truly have this capability. As for other things, we also very much agree. Everyone's aspiration for seeking the Dharma is very sincere. But sometimes when it comes to important matters or certain things that are widely promoted, we blindly pursue them. This is also something quite common among many Buddhists. We can't say it's superstition, but it seems that the final outcome they get sometimes don't correspond at all. And with their faith, there are such situations.
Devjin sernar dansuji yerdang yerchan tadag jang rigbandanji tsirji sosur takte jibrasha.
Thus, stinginess, anger, and so forth, all objects and subjects use this reasoning to observe and refute each one individually. Just now, we used some very sharp reasoning above to analyze the attachment. It's not just attachment, but also others, including stinginess, anger, arrogance, and jealousy. Whether it's 4 afflictions or the 4 arrows, these can be checked with the same method by observing the object and the subject in this way. Prajnaparamita sutras often first make determinations about form. Form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness is form. And finally, feeling perception, formation, and consciousness are the same. Below, proceed by analogy. Samyukta Agama Sutra passage I translated. Samyukta Agama Sutra. Each time it first analyzes form. After completing the analysis of form, the other aggregates, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness, which are known as the other aggregates, each of them form, sound, smell, taste, touch. For these, it uses another method, a more concise and clear way of reasoning. Similarly, what we did before, when observing greed, there is greed and the object of greed. Similarly, stinginess and the object of stinginess, or anger and the object of anger, jealousy and the object of jealousy, pride and the object of pride. We reason these one by one. Is it a sentient being or an inanimate being? Or as conditioned dharmas or unconditioned dharmas, as substantial dharmas or insubstantial dharmas, analyzing in this way, then the anger or jealousy that arises toward it should be examined this way. In fact, it's not just that greed is in reality unattainable. The same applies to the other four afflictions, like anger, are exactly the same, completely without any foundation, and can be refuted. So this principle is actually not very difficult for everyone, possible through reason. This is actually how we practice ourselves. When we usually feel greed, it's very hard to control. Especially for beings in the desire realm, greed is very severe. Also now, people today, via movies, TV shows, or on Weibo, and many other platforms, every day all sorts of greedy afflictions are being promoted. They are beautified how truly wonderful love is, how love is so precious in our lives, and so on and so forth. But in reality, if you look at the very nature of greed, after completing the analysis, check anger and afflictions. Take anger, for example. In normal social groups, it's not promoted. But in the military, for instance, words like hero, honor, and role model are used if someone ignores self and carefully and deliberately attacks the enemy with precision. It's considered great. Same in many fields, including the business world. Jealousy is also constantly encouraged. I must surpass him, and the other person is seen as my competitor. This is how it's talked about. Then there's arrogance. Often in the world of business, in parts of entertainment, some lack merit. They pretend they're skilled beyond everything. So, in all walks of life in our society today, few people know 5 poisons. Even at this time, such understanding is rare. Understand these 5 poisons are unattainable. But just knowing this is not enough. Following the great masters of the past, we must practice regularly. Receive teaching, do it. If you only receive the teaching but do not practice, it brings no benefit to your own mind stream. You only gain theoretical understanding. Attachment and its object aren't real. Theoretically, you already understand and you contemplate it. After contemplation, you practice. Hearing, contemplation, practice, even if we already know in theory, desire and the object of desire do not exist. Anger and object don't exist. If you do not actually practice, then in real life, it will not have any effect at all. Therefore, the second point is that practice is very important. Supplication counts. Your listening practice effective. If you really want to reach that point, you need the blessings of the Guru and the 3 jewels. Otherwise, even if I try, learning the Dharma isn't easy. Although we understand it theoretically, we can all understand no attachment, no objects. Observe and understand for it to arise in mind stream. Guru, 3 jewels, blessings.
Dertang yerdan yerchen la ngubom tartig mamg na ngubo nyetun jerwa yi dagdang jan na jiji yin.
Object or subject, neither exists. What in the end is this so-called real self or other? Through the above analysis, actually, whether it's attachment or anger, if external objects, perceiving mind, the perceiving mind clings to object, which is a technical term in Buddhism called the subject. Neither the object nor consciousness, object and mind, you can never find anything that exists inherently. No real unbreakable essence. Nor are there existent phenomena like this. If such things cannot be found, then what exactly are the self and others that we believe to be real? What are they, ultimately, in their true nature? Because when we examine things in this way, objects can't be found, and perceiving mind can be found. If neither of these can be found, taken for granted that everyone has both aspects. But if neither in this samsara, what exactly are my actions and behaviors? It seems it is hard to make sense of oneself. Thus, if there is no body, how could there be male and female characteristics? Is this what Bodhikaryavattara teaches? Selflessness of persons and phenomena. After examining these, in fact, it should be contemplation on the body. The body is unfindable. If the body is ultimately unfindable, male, female traits, form, they too do not truly exist. We are pitiable sentient beings hold to gender differences. If body can't be found, isn't wisdom chapter where 4 foundations of mindfulness discussed? When it talks about mindfulness of the body, it says the body can't be found. What male and female traits are we attached to daily? The Lankavatara Sutra also says all dharmas are in truth empty, and so too are words. So all phenomena lack true existence. Throughout the entire world, no dust found, nor even a single strand of hair. If so, language not found, consciousness found. If body, speech, and mind, 3 gates cannot be found, then what can be found at all? I went just as I had planned to do, making my way as intended. In a monastery, the Vengu monastery. At that time, I was actually doing a retreat. Talk about a great perfection. In 1986, I taught 3 vows. In 1987, His Holiness went to Mount Hutai, but did not visit their monastery. In 1988, I went to teach the Dzogchen preliminary practice. Teach emptiness. And sometimes I would teach other Dharma topics. Respect body, speech, and mind. I would give young lamas. The young lamas would have exams, oral exams. During the oral exam, at that time, it seems in the Gondro, there's something called paying respect with the 3 gates. I asked them, what are the 3 gates? For a long time, none of them spoke. And then finally, one young monk, after a while, at that time I lived in a room inside, he said, this inner door, this is inside door. That door, outside, these 3 doors are called the 3 gates. They still remember this now. Some time ago, Khenpo from their monastery, when we were chatting, that monk at the time, for a long time afterwards, they was called the 3 Gates Scholar. Due to the presence of the inner door, the outer door, and outermost door, there are 3 gates. So when we really observe, sometimes it's body, speech, and mind, 3 gates exist in conventional terms. But in reality, in the real world, they don't actually exist. So in that case, when we face any kind of object, whether it's greed or anger, how do we obtain them? Actually, this Dharma is precious. If we have the opportunity, currently we have no relatives members. If we had a group, everyone could recite it, which would benefit people's mental continuum. If you can memorize these 70 verses well, it really shouldn't take too long, probably. With the treatise on the peacock's destruction of poison, the sword of wisdom destroys demons. Memorizing, if one repeatedly contemplates the meaning within, should be helpful for one's own practice.
ngumendaram jin dagme tem khasug jin da shawa jar dinang udong ngume ki chun da dagni ngowe stong a.
The unreal has no self. It is free from fabrication, like empty space. Therefore, real and unreal phenomena, essence of the two selves, is empty. Unreal phenomena are not the nature of myself. Because unreal phenomena resemble the son of a barren woman, hair of a tortoise, or horns of a rabbit. These are non-existent unreal phenomena. They're not caused by conditions and they're impossible. Are these myself? Definitely not me. Because I myself believe that I exist. I believe I am a real entity, that I am permanent. So it is not really myself. Then what is this self like? It is like empty space. It is completely free from all that can act and all that is acted upon. Because unreal phenomena are impossible, free from fabrication, free from action, just like empty space. Unreal things aren't real. So through this kind of analysis, both real phenomena and unreal phenomena are not myself. Therefore, real and unreal phenomena, the essence of the two selves is empty. The personal self and the self of phenomena, real and unreal phenomena, the true essence of all these things is emptiness. Neither real phenomena nor unreal phenomena can be grasped. Finally, Shantideva Bodhisattva also, when he realized a certain level of realization, if real and unreal phenomena do not appear to the mind, then there are no remaining appearances. We also often, many people say that I can't recite the others. Way of the Bodhisattva memorize this verse. So when you truly and deeply realize the ultimate truth, in fact, within your own continuum, absolutely nothing at all can truly be found. Real phenomena, unreal phenomena, the self of the person and the self of phenomena, none found. Because at first, we sentient beings say I, and become attached to the self of the person. And then by saying mine, we gradually develop an attachment to the self of phenomena. In this way, within samsara, we are carried along helplessly, like a water wheel turning. Therefore, Master Chandrakirti, after seeing this situation, developed great compassion for sentient beings and paid homage to deep and great compassion for this very reason. But if we rely on such instructions to observe, in fact, the self is neither a real phenomenon nor an unreal phenomenon, like empty space. If the self does not exist, then the phenomena I speak of also do not exist. If both self and possessions are empty, then in this world, what could possibly not be empty? What phenomena could there be at all? So, as I mentioned the other day, if you take yourself to be real, this is called the self of the person. If you take objects as real, it is the self of phenomena. If you take everything to be truly real, this is called samsara. If we see into everything, it means liberation. I was inspired and posted another Weibo. Later, it seemed that quite a few people saw it. It is like this. If we take ourselves to be real, this is called attachment to the self of the person. If one doesn't understand ego grasping, you will, in all likelihood, take yourself to be real, truly real. Taking external objects as real is called attachment to the self of phenomena. If considering everything, including yourself, external things, you see them as real, this is called samsara. If we, regarding these, whether ourselves or external circumstances, have completely seen through them all, have seen through them clearly, and have completely understood, this is called liberation. Liberation is not something from outside, like an alien merging into your own continuum. It's not like that. When will I ever be defeated by this truth? You will suddenly realize the truth. This is truly what our practice and our enlightenment are really all about. Sometimes people say it's actually quite simple, and this really is the reason why.
Terter tundam ramshinjim khanjar mukpa mepe nar number to be mukshibi pong the nidin jongrazat pong the nidin jongrazat.
Missing the ultimate nature is like missing vast space, and because of clinging to deluded thoughts, all kinds of disasters can arise in vain. In this way, when we observe through the ultimate truth, when conducting observation, we find nothing at all can truly be obtained, just like empty space out in the distance. Past can't be found. you observe this way, or use reasoning of neither one nor many, the reasoning of the diamond splinters or dependent origination, using these Madhyamaka methods to observe, or in our often referred to as great illusory net, using reasoning from the single cause, scriptural logic, or observing through the method of the two equalities. When we observe in this way, nothing can be found, just like empty space. However, once our deluded thoughts, in reality, all kinds of phenomena seem to arise in the world around us. Therefore, many of us have, in fact, this correct understanding is relatively weak. The transformer is, there is really nothing substantial to it at all, not even a little. But why does he develop attachment to the illusions he himself makes, generate greed? It is because his understanding of emptiness is rather weak. This is the reason. Therefore, we can also say here, perhaps, in other words, that in the ultimate sense, all phenomena are like empty space. As stated in the Maharatnakututa Sutra, the very nature and essence of all phenomena is itself like empty space. In the ultimate sense, the nature of all phenomena is just like empty space, principle like empty space. If we reflect through the coming together of our own causes and conditions, we will also come to understand its meaning. For practitioners, emptiness is truly extremely important. Many people attain enlightenment contemplating emptiness, including some practitioners of Tantra as well. Esoteric practitioners, as well as some practitioners of Chan and Buddhism. It is also very good. One aspect is to cultivate knowledge related to emptiness, as well as the unborn asyllable, which has not yet been vocalized. Unborn also means emptiness, and the asyllable, itself is truly extremely important. When our teacher was alive, he encouraged us to recite the A, because it represents a kind of emptiness. This emptiness, in particular, is symbolized by the unborn syllable. As for its main source, explained in the Kalachakra Tantra and True Name Sutra, the Manjushri Namasamgiti contains truly extraordinary teachings. Padmasambhava's commentary on the True Name Sutra is truly, absolutely, extremely important. Originally, the teachings of Padmasambhava can be divided into Kama and Terma teachings. For example, regarding Kama teachings, Padmasambhava's works like the True Name Sutra, there are both Terma and Kama teachings. There is a text called The Precious Garland of the Stages of the Secret Mantra Path, which outlines Padmasambhava's stages of practice. This also includes and in fact encompasses both Kama and Terma teachings. In this way, e.g. some Padmasambhava's works, the so-called Kama teachings, which are the tantric texts apart from the Terma, mainly consist of those compiled by later great masters. We call these Kama, or what is known as the early translation Kama. Earlier, second Dujong Rinpoche compiled a collection of 58 books. When our institute first started, we had these. Later, Khenpo from Kato collected additional materials and relevant documents, and in that collection there were about 130 volumes. Add all past to present, there are about over 100 volumes with lineage in this collection. So regarding the tenure also contains some of Guru Rinpoche's teachings, including commentaries on texts like the Manjushri Namasamgiti. There are also teachings from other great masters. As for the Terma, what we mostly refer to nowadays, as we understand it, is the Treasury of Precious Termases. At that time, it was mainly compiled by Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo from Jamyang Khyentse, some of which are termas revealed again. It includes teachings from over 100 tertums. Some tertums have a small number. Actually, apart from the Treasury of Precious Termas, there are also, in fact, many other terma collections. There are more than 60 volumes in this collection, but if you want to receive the empowerments for the Treasury of Precious Termases, in the past, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche was in Nepal. It took 5 months to bestow empowerments. Treasury Later on, it seems that there was a Sakya Lama named Pema Rinpoche, I know has passed away. He was also quite familiar with the teachings of the Naima school. When he gave the spiritual empowerments, it also took about 5 months in total. Yangtang Living Buddha practiced it 3 months. But there was one case with Chökyi Rinpoche in the past. When he gave the empowerments, he did so at Dzogchen Monastery. It is said it took just over a month. The empowerments he gave were brief. And that Rinpoche was quite unique. Those requesting teachings at that time, from beginning to end, did not say a single unnecessary word. From the very first day, he continuously gave them empowerments. Such a great Rinpoche, those from other places. Last day, he may not say a single word. And he also never announced the empowerments are now finished. That was just his personality, that's all. Of course, now the gurus also regarding the Rinchen Terzo. Actually, the Rinchen Terzo also contains some empowerments within it. There are also some helpful practice instructions within it. In the past, it was Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche, Dzongsar Khyentse Chökyi Lodro, as he said. At that particular time, it was commonly said that giving all of the necessary empowerments would take 9 months. So when it comes to these empowerments and transmissions, indeed, every Lama has their own way of doing things in their daily lives. Some great masters recite from the Kangyur. It can be completed in 2 months. For His Holiness Deshen Rinpoche, it took nearly 5 months in total to be completed. Great treasury of precious termas. Some even took as long as 10 months. Karma empowerments. When His Holiness Dujom Rinpoche was very young, he got them in his hometown from a guru named Duwani Ma, who gave him empowerments. Dujom Rinpoche said he was young, receiving empowerments. He was entrusted with all of these teachings. At that time, some Rinpoches from Minglong Master's family, who were truly remarkable masters, were also present there. But later, Dujom Rinpoche left all those scriptures in Tibet and then eventually went to India. Later on, he recalled why his previous master had entrusted all the teachings to him. He realized he should propagate them. While he was in Nepal, he gathered hundreds of monastics and lay people, teachings close to lay people. But now, since the Dharma was nearly gone, he felt he had to don his armor. So at the very beginning, he gave the empowerments of the collected spiritual teachings. In fact, in his later years, he planned to give empowerments and transmissions of collected teachings. But later, eventually, in his old age, in some Western countries, for example, a few individuals around him, it seems that at times some of Rinpoche's words and deeds, and perhaps there was some interference. Later, many of them felt quite regretful, believing that ultimately, in the end, regarding the collected teachings, he only gave the empowerment just once, but unfortunately the transmission was never actually received. There is the saying, so why did I mention all this just now? Sometimes when we receive certain transmission or receive some teachings, of course it is very important for everyone to aspire to them, because these transmissions and empowerments are truly rare. However, if we do not practice, it is quite difficult. So on one hand, we should practice, use the empowerments and transmissions we received. It's crucial to attend teachings and study the theory ourselves. Many use this thanks to the blessings of the three jewels. Don't know future. There might suddenly be no more opportunities, right? So everyone should, when it comes to certain Dharma texts or audio recordings, preserve them. It's important. Otherwise, we don't know. We think, what if everything online? What if these things are suddenly gone all of a sudden? All of these materials in particular, for as long as we can remember, we have always relied on the cloud as our essential and trusted support. Void's causes are incomplete because nowadays there are many wars in the world and all of these things are very uncertain. If something were to unexpectedly happen to a space station, sources of various different platforms in the air network, and they were instructed to completely erase them from existence, ensuring that no trace of them would remain at all, then for some of us practitioners, loss be significant. So making foolish preparations, I personally think it is also absolutely necessary. Okay, I just don't know what I'm talking about. So let me briefly mention this.
다너 무밤메발라 곰베 무부박착근 랑진 영스 제와이 탑스런더라 입든지
Practice without object. Object habits dissolve into the nature of mind firmly believe in this principle. From now on, we should practice the emptiness that is without an object in our daily lives. This practice of emptiness is truly important. Whether we are countering attachment or anger, after many people study Madhyamaka and the Prajnaparamita teachings on emptiness, though still ordinary people with habits, attachment, anger, it is still completely helpful, truly valuable and helpful. Some people, when their lives suddenly change, family changes. If they never studied Madhyamaka or the teachings, they might have already collapsed or even left this world. But since they rely on these Mahayana Buddhist teachings, they are able to face life just the same. So we should first practice the emptiness without an object. In this way, habits formed by conditions since beginningless time will gradually and slowly be suppressed or cut off entirely or completely eradicated from existence and so on. In the end, these conditioned habitual tendencies will slowly and gradually dissolve into the natural Dharmadhatu. Therefore, regarding this kind of principle, you should have absolutely no doubt about it. I really do think so. Studied some Madhyamaka or emptiness should have absolutely unshakable and unwavering confidence. Isn't it in the part called Entering the Path that if one engages in the practice of emptiness for a long time, it is believed that one will definitely cut the habit of grasping true existence, and this tendency for true existence will end. By consistently practicing the absence of all phenomena, even the attachment to emptiness itself will ultimately and eventually be completely cut off. If we first practice emptiness for a longer period of time, real habits will eventually break. Then habit of true existence, even emptiness won't, even attachment to emptiness will be eliminated. When one reaches the state of Buddhahood, even the root of these habitual tendencies no longer exists. Even the subtlest cognitive obscurations no longer exist. So back when the sixth patriarch first started out, in those early days, he simply didn't fully understand the important principle that Bodhi has no tree. But later, gradually, he came to understand it. He understood these principles of emptiness and even the principle that emptiness does not exist. Therefore, in our practice of emptiness, we must still have firm faith. I think nowadays many people privately study Madhyamaka and Buddhist logic. This is actually quite good, honestly. Generally for everyone, for example, even if you have just 2 or 3 classes a week, keeping up this unbroken continuity is very important. If attachment to reality is strong, it will gradually and slowly weaken over a period of time. Clinging intensely to phenomena that appear from nothing, such attachment should not be indulged, brings suffering. This verse is also very good indeed. Regarding these phenomena that appear without truly existing, we develop extremely strong attachment and craving. We discussed that whether it's people or things, they are like bubbles in water. They fundamentally, yet, towards these phenomena, we develop overwhelming attachment or feelings of aversion. In reality, such attachment arises. You really shouldn't be greedy. Because of this reason, so much suffering is brought about countless kinds of pain. This is truly frightening. As for us humans, sometimes we are ignorant of the principle. Appearances aren't inherent. Because of this, we invite all sorts of suffering. In the Jewel Treasury treatises, there is a citation from the King of Samadhi Sutra. Just as a person who is drunk sees the world spinning around, when someone gets drunk after drinking, they see the whole world spinning, the sky and earth turning. In fact, it has not moved. All dharmas are the same. In fact, nothing has been shaken at all. All phenomena are the same way. When we look at external objects, wow, this is beautiful. This looks so nice. This is amazing, and so on and so forth. But in reality, for those of us who are attached, in the continuum of our own mind, just improper mental fabrication playing tricks. For the external world, none of this truly exists. Just like when we drink alcohol, everything outside seems to be spinning all around. Or sometimes, on occasion, various illusions appearing yet without inherent nature. It's just like this. Whether it's simply seeing two moons or seeing hairs, when many problems arise, what appears outside for us ordinary people is due to tendencies of mind streams. When these habits exist, a shared, profoundly and quietly inverted consciousness arises in this moment. And at that time, all kinds of hallucinations and fantasies arise. Of course, for many people in the world, what you see now, these things are illusions. They might not accept it, and that's fine. Let them analyze it slowly. Why do we say this? The 36 impurities, each form is different. Men and women have similar bodies, so why want to embrace and touch each other? Why is that? As for our bodies, they are composed of 36 kinds of impure substances. Some sutras and treatises often analyze this. There are 12 external impurities. For example, our hair, teeth, and nails, including all sorts of external parts of the body, 12 unclean kinds. None of these are really clean one by one. There are 12 kinds within the body as well. For example, our skin, blood, flesh, tissues, organs, and so on, 12 types. Then there are 12 internal kinds, our internal organs, including the spleen, liver, gallbladder, kidneys, and lungs. Each of these is simply just a different variation. The human body comes in different shapes. So whether it's a man's body or a woman's body, it's really just this. There's nothing more to it than that. We might say this in theory, hard to understand, but past masters and elders, when they require the person's body to undergo a sky burial, if you visit the site, at that moment you'll realize that the body we loved, whether it's ours or another's, is actually just like this. You can see how especially ugly and truly unclean it is, inside and out. Our bodies, if you truly observe with wisdom, there really isn't anything worth being attached to. Analyze each. For example, in Thailand, wrote this before just a bit, but in fact, their practice is that nowadays it seems there are some legal restrictions, but some people's bodies decompose over time and eventually become extremely foul-smelling, and at such times, some practitioners specifically go into the forest contemplating impurity. Some contemplate skeletons, some contemplate flesh, and some observe bodies in the process of decay. At this point, when we look at our own bodies and those of others, if people are so attached to them, that's all there is to it. You may perhaps be interested in this color method. There is still a certain amount of greed, but this kind of attachment will eventually fade away. Human body is a bag of skin made of 36 impure substances. No matter how good its appearance is, no matter its color is, why we still want to embrace it, want to touch it, and still want to cling to it, to hold on so tightly. Why is that, I wonder? In fact, this is what we should have. The four inverted views of permanence, happiness, self, and purity. Impure for pure, mistaking what is impermanent for something. Permanent means believing that things which will
There is no reason for me to be me. 得以恰当相近处，莫藏真为中内把得了吃不下个下个物，有难的是担不起。In a lake of blood, feces, and urine, there dwells a city of filthy worms. If this body were truly worth desiring, it should be shown as such. As for our body, if we truly analyze it, whether it's blood, thick pus, unspeakable filth, or even foul, unpleasant urine, these are just like an extremely, extremely filthy lake. Inside, there are many unclean 84,000 insect cities within, constantly dwelling inside. So our entire body, inside and outside, if we analyze and dissect it, then in fact, throughout the whole body, if something is worth greed, it's most lovable. Is there such a place? If there is, please point it out. Please tell us. You might say that human skin is very nice, but whether it's your own skin or someone else's, living or dead skin, it's meant to be good, but human skin seems quite frightening. Human flesh is good, human organs, good, human excrement is very good, human eyes are good. When you point them out one by one, when pointing them out, wow, yes, I should like them. Is there such a thing? If there is, you can always feel free to point it out and let me know. Indeed, Buddha's principles, nothing wrong with them. But as ordinary people, we have a lot of attachment and habitual tendencies in our minds. When we analyze it, it seems correct. But when actually practicing, I'm afraid we might not be able to do it. So, as it is also stated in the Jewel Garland of the Middle Way, though excrement may, at times, have a remarkably beautiful color and a fresh, pleasing, almost attractive shape, one should not be attached to it. The same applies to a woman's appearance. There was a line then in some language, especially from a feminist perspective, might not seem very civilized at all. It's like excrement, even if its color is especially beautiful, and it's also very fresh. The shape is quite nice, impure. Excrement, its outer color can be appealing, and it's fresh as well, but even so, one should not be attached to it at all. Everyone knows if impure excrement is good, no one would desire it. In the same way, a woman's beauty and appearance are like this. Later on, it also specifically says, just as a woman's body is considered impure, so too is your own body regarded as impure in the same way. At that time, Nagarjuna said, just as we analyze the female body, in fact, the male body, your own body, share the same. So now the appearance is very attractive. He has a good image. Their whole posture is excellent and so on. But in the end, it's just a pile of flesh and blood. People just have different ways of seeing things. For example, right now we think no matter if it's a handsome man or a beautiful woman, they're good looking. But if there's nothing else wrong with them, and you just use a computer to say simply remove their lips, for example, would that still look good? Actually, it's a little bit of flesh. If you cut it open in the middle, wow, it would look ugly. Or if one of their eyes was missing, or if their nose was gone, that would be very ugly, right? Our discriminating mind, as long as there's a slight difference in appearance or features, quite some time ago, there was a very famous world's richest person for a period of time before Musk, world's richest man, and now he has a new family by his side. But many people, both in the East and the West, think that she looks, for people from East, his name is Bezos, and his new family member, they don't understand why is she considered the family member of the world's richest man. Why does she look like that? No one says, no set standard for looking good. It's just that A certain group of sentient beings share a common karmic perception of beauty. For example, Africans think being very dark skinned, a certain look is the most attractive. Asians also have their own preferences. So I think that here we should develop a new understanding of this greed. Look at another verse. Thus, because of impurity, we are deceived by greed. Sinking into the mire of suffering, there is nothing reliable at all. If we simply analyze as we did above, this body, whether it's female or male, the body is impure. But we sentient beings, because of the very strong temptation of attachment. Oh, did I just recite the Tibetan just now? By impurity, we are deceived by greed. Sinking into the mire of suffering, there is nothing reliable at all. As we analyzed earlier, this impure nature, whether male or female body, it's like this. But because we ordinary sentient beings have very serious habitual tendencies in our mental continuum, we are thus quite clearly tempted by the affliction of greed. As a result, we become especially attached to others' bodies, and to our own impure bodies, we are attached. Because of this attachment, in the end, we sink into an ocean of suffering, which is extremely painful. Many die from greed. Because of greed, I am depressed. Actually, I am a little, as we analyzed before, for example, a lot of our current anxiety, for instance, comes from holding on too tight, binding ourselves too tightly. If you relax a little, whether it's towards anything, towards the world, towards myself, if you relax the mind and understand all phenomena are empty by nature, then perhaps naturally you will untie the knots in your heart. This is extremely important indeed, especially in this day and age. If many young people study Madhyamaka, the middle way philosophy, it should be very helpful for their own well-being. Sometimes we feel anxious, very afraid, lacking a sense of security, and in a lot of pain, not knowing what to do now. All phenomena are empty. Or's dream illusion. In fact, what is there to really gain and what is there to lose? It's nothing. It's just like doing business in a dream. These gains and losses, noble or inferior status, are all based on certain conditions. It is untenable. At this point, your mind will naturally relax. Many of these stressful things that happen externally naturally dissolve into nothingness. This is truly very important. Please remember, because so many of us are attached and greedy, and indeed most people nowadays are troubled and in pain. We're tied to life, attached relationships, attached careers. And all attachments lead to then pain in my heart, drowning in suffering, sinking in a muddy pit, as if we can't pull ourselves out. There's nothing we can do. There might be some Dharma friends, or some people nearby will help you, telling you not to be so attached. In this world we live in, everything depends on the coming together of causes and conditions. When causes complete, anything possible. When causes and conditions are not complete, no matter how much you cry, shed tears, or feel completely hopeless and lost deep inside your heart, it is all completely useless and won't help at all. Have no great significance. So perhaps there are such words that we're all together in this vast sea of suffering, but in reality, none of these things are reliable. Whether it's our bodies or our desires, these things, there is nothing truly trustworthy, not even people. The other day I read in some material that the affections in this world have never signed a lifelong contract with anyone with my greed and are carried along by our ignorance and afflictions. We worldwide think if someone truly really likes someone else, it should never ever change, or if they hate someone, that hatred should last forever. But in this world of conditioned phenomena, nothing is truly reliable. The beliefs I held before may not necessarily stay the same later on. Values from my youth. When I was middle-aged, when I was old, they might differ. Even if you try hard to hold on, you may not keep it. Like holding sand in hand, the tighter you grip it, the more it slips away. In our world, whether it's attachment to money or to people, attachments and desires. In fact, when the right conditions come together, it has conditions aren't present. No matter what you do, there's nothing you can do. So at this point, perhaps we need to understand, as I have translated before, a great and renowned master from the Indian biographies of the great accomplished masters of Tantra. Among them, I remember there was one called Kanaripa. He was a king, and later his queen, actually he first pretended and asked someone, please go and tell the queen, let her know that I have died outside. The king and queen had a very close relationship. This person deliberately teased her, saying, your king has died outside. After she died, she was desperate. The queen died because of this. Then the king was heartbroken. He deliberately killed the queen, but he still loved her. He kept holding on to her corpse, wouldn't let go. He stayed still. Soon the corpse decayed and turned into a skeleton. But wherever he went, he carried the queen's skeleton on his back. Afterward, 8 years had passed. In this world, among masters of the past, there were also times when they were especially attached to emotion. He carried the queen's corpse for 8 years, never separating from it. In the end, his mind was deranged. Later, a great master wanted to help him attain liberation. He carefully reached out and took hold of a simple clay jar, carrying this earthen jar with him, and soon joined the king. The king carried his queen's bones. That accomplished master held the jar, but in the end, he somehow accidentally and quite suddenly dropped it on the ground and it shattered to pieces. Then the master pretended to sob, then picked up the pieces and kept holding on to them. The king said, you are really foolish. Your jar is already broke, yet you still want to hold on to its fragments. Why are you being so foolish? Then the master said, you are even more foolish. Your queen died 8 years ago, yet you still carry her skeleton. You are even more foolish. There are two versions of this story. The 100-Deed Sutra states there was a person who carried the skeleton of his queen or something when he was holding his partner's skeleton. The other Siddha, he picked up another skeleton in the charnel ground. Then, when careless, they lived together. They tied the skeletons and threw them into the river. Two eloped. Then the two of them cried. And finally, they regained their awareness, saw their true nature. But in this story, as I remember, it was a long time ago, translated 20 or 30 years ago. In that story, if I remember correctly, it was Kanaripa, right? I think that's who it was. In the biography of Kanaripa, at that time, all the fragments he had were completely gone. He just kept crying. At that moment, the king thought to himself that he was very unwise and foolish. Master says, more foolish, you have kept the queen's corpse for 8 years. Mine still has some fragments left. Basically, it hasn't decayed much. Everything is still there. But now, you don't even have a piece of the queen's flesh left. Her body turned out this way. You are foolish. Later, he realized this, and after realizing it, he attained realization. After that, he was always called the Great Master. Kanaripa, one of 80 masters, if you look at his pictures, he appears in painted tankas. Story shown. So sometimes when we look at it, some practitioners say, I am pitiful. I am so miserable. I am so ashamed. Even though I have already been practicing, because my afflictions are so deep not yet realized. And I've done many bad things and so on. But if I don't give up and keep working hard, I think that, like Kanaripa, even people as greedy as he was are rare. He kept a skeleton for 8 years. But if one day we truly realize that, in fact, it turns out that this greed alone is the main culprit that harms us, we should recognize this at that moment. Holiness taught, actually, if we truly recognize greed, then it becomes very easy for us. In other teachings by Mipham Rinpoche, it is also indeed said, if we recognize the true nature of greed, then it is truly beneficial and brings absolutely no harm at all. But if we not recognize it, it brings harm, not benefit. This is frightening. So, as ordinary people, it is difficult for us to break our habitual habits. At the very least, we should first understand this clearly in theory. People today aren't like this. Nowadays, whenever people encounter anything, they cling to it with a sense of reality that is extremely vivid and concrete, believing that it truly exists. Even among us Buddhists who have studied for many years, finally, in my own life now, suffer some losses, we become especially desperate. Sometimes it appears this person studied Dzogchen, studied so much Madhyamika, but in terms of their actual practice and overall understanding, they are the same as anyone who never studied the Dharma. Their deep attachment to samsara and strong clinging to the self has not been diminished in the slightest. Such a practitioner is in fact indeed somewhat laughable. If we truly understood the meaning of each and every verse thoroughly, it probably wouldn't be so bad. So sometimes observing others, self-reflecting, we're ashamed. Sometimes when we encounter these teachings, we are fortunate. In this world, there are many kinds of knowledge. Some you pay for, you don't. All sorts of knowledge. But when it comes to truly understanding the human mind, to such a sharp and penetrating analysis of our minds, I'm afraid that apart from the reasoning found in Buddhist Madhyamaka, it's not necessarily something you can find elsewhere. So when we have access to these teachings, I hope we don't just listen superficially, like I'll just listen while eating or walking. Listen while walking, but I've seen people, I'm really taking notes seriously. I saw someone who has filled 100 notebooks with notes. I'll talk about this in more detail when it's convenient. This is a very serious attitude, at least in terms of attitude and time commitment. We truly admire that when attending classes, or study, having a serious attitude is still very important. If we are truly earnest, these teachings will also benefit your mind stream. It's about doing tasks, like how some students nowadays hand in homework. If you study just for the sake of studying, it might not necessarily help you to truly and completely overcome your own personal afflictions. Actually, we don't study for others to see, nor is it for others to praise us. It should be about regulating our own mind stream and helping to adjust ourselves internally. If we have such a condition, as I mentioned earlier, nowadays in this internet era, it truly is an unstoppable, favorable condition. Everyone understands the term. If we can make use of it, we can gain something unprecedented. This is indeed possible conditions can be established. In the past, including when we first started studying, if we had thought about it, then things impossible. But now they can be attained. So as for myself, although sometimes these classes, these also have certain aspects that are important to consider, difficulties, obstacles, and so forth. But then I think for some of us, it might be of some help. And with that in mind, I disregard everything else about myself, still making efforts. I hope those involved and those with the right conditions can also take this opportunity and really take it very seriously. Some opportunities are rare. All right, that's all for today.
Om Bandara Bandara